Before we begin this journey through centuries of power and passion about the true history of kings and queens of England, let's uncover some curiosities of some of them. Henry VIII had 6 wives and executed 2 of them. He changed the course of religion in England just to divorce his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. His love life literally reshaped the church. He married 6 women, 2 lost their heads, 1 nearly tore Europe apart. This is not the Henry VIII they told you about in school. But what Catherine of Aragon did next would spark a rebellion that changed religion forever. Stay with us because her story is just getting started. He wrote love songs and poetry. Despite his brutal reputation, Henry VIII was a romantic at heart. One of his surviving compositions is called Pastime with Good Company. Elizabeth I survived at least 5 assassination plots. The Virgin Queen was the target of conspiracies from powerful enemies, including her own cousin, Mary, Queen of Scots. Edward VI became king at just 9 years old. Though he ruled for only 6 years, his reign was full of religious upheaval and the manipulation of powerful nobles. Queen Victoria mourned her husband, Prince Albert, for 40 years. She wore black every day after his death and helped create the modern idea of mourning. George III talked to trees. During episodes of his infamous mental illness, he reportedly believed he could communicate with oak trees and issued nonsensical royal orders. William the Conqueror was so fat when he died that his body exploded in the coffin. At his funeral, monks had to force his bloated corpse into a stone sarcophagus, which burst open due to internal gases. Grim, but true. Richard the Lionheart spent only 6 months of his 10-year reign in England. He preferred fighting in the Crusades to ruling his kingdom. Most of his reign was spent abroad. Behind the royal portraits and the polished speeches were human beings full of fear, lust, jealousy, and ambition. Henry cried over lost love. Elizabeth ruled through loneliness. Their crowns were heavy, not just with gold, but guilt. You've heard of Henry VIII's wives, but did you know he wore armor so heavy it crushed his own horse during a joust? Or that he blamed Anne Boleyn's miscarriages on witchcraft? Watch closely as we trace the path of Henry's shifting alliances on this ancient map. Each red line marking betrayal, each name a future ghost in the Tower of London. Before we begin this journey through centuries of power and passion, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment to support this channel and keep history alive. England, a land bathed in blood, ambition, betrayal, and glory. Its crown has passed through the hands of tyrants, visionaries, lovers, and warriors. But behind every golden throne lies a human story, flawed, fiery, and fascinating. Our story begins in 1066, William the Conqueror. Not English by birth, but Norman. He crossed the Channel with steel and fire, defeating Harold Godwinson at the Battle of Hastings. William claimed the English crown with blood, not birthright. He ruled with iron, centralizing power, building castles, and imposing harsh taxes. His flaw? Ruthless ambition. His aim? Absolute control. Then came his son, William II, called Rufus, arrogant, flamboyant, and disliked. He clashed with the church, taxed heavily, and met a mysterious death in the New Forest. An accident, or an assassination. Power makes enemies. His flaw was pride. His goal? To rule unchecked, even against God. Henry I followed, smart and cunning. He issued the Charter of Liberties, a precursor to the Magna Carta. But he ruled with a cold heart. His only legitimate son died in a shipwreck, and his dynasty teetered. He wanted stability, but the seeds of chaos had already been sown. Then the Civil War, the anarchy, Matilda, Henry's daughter, versus Stephen, his nephew. A kingdom divided, battles raged, nobles turned coat. Power slipped through royal fingers. Matilda never wore the crown, but she paved the way for her son, Henry II. Henry II intelligent, energetic, ruthless. He restored order to a broken kingdom and expanded royal power like never before. But his greatest flaw? Pride and a fatal friendship. Thomas Becket, once his closest ally, became Archbishop of Canterbury and soon his fiercest rival. Their feud ended in blood. Becket murdered in a cathedral. Henry wept, barefoot in penance. His aim? Control over both church and state. But power demanded sacrifice. His sons turned against him. Richard the Lionheart, brave on the battlefield, absent from England. He lived for war, not for rule. Crusades in the Holy Land, legends carved in steel. But he drained the treasury and saw his kingdom as a coin purse for glory. His flaw? Vanity. His aim? Eternal fame. Then John, brother, betrayer, tyrant, known as Lackland, for he lost more than he gained. France, dignity, respect. The barons rose against him. In 1215, they forced his hand. The Magna Carta was born, not out of principle, but desperation. John's flaw? Cruelty. His aim? Control. But he ruled through fear and folly. Henry III followed, pious but weak, obsessed with cathedrals, blind to politics. Civil war returned. The nobility demanded voice. England stirred restlessly. Then came Edward I, Longshanks, Hammer of the Scots, a brutal king, yet a builder of law and legacy. He crushed Wales, clashed with Scotland, and gave Parliament structure. His flaw? Brutality. His aim? An empire. Edward II, a king who loved horses more than war, and one man more than his crown, Piers Gaveston. Nobles despised him. His reign was chaos. Defeated at Bannockburn by the Scots, humiliated by his barons, and betrayed by his wife, Isabella, the she-wolf of France. She and her lover, Roger Mortimer, deposed him. Edward died mysteriously, perhaps murdered. His flaw? Weakness. His aim? Personal comfort over power. Then came Edward III, young, bold, and determined to restore the crown's dignity. He claimed the French throne and launched the 100 Years' War. Victories like Crécy and Poitiers made him a legend. Yet age dulled his fire. In his final years, court corruption and illness stained his legacy. His flaw? Overreach. His aim? Glory across two kingdoms. Next, Richard II, a boy king scarred by trauma. The peasants, revolt, betrayal, and fear. He loved art and ceremony more than politics. He exiled his rivals, hoarded power, and lost his grip. His cousin Henry Bolingbroke returned from exile and seized the crown. Richard was imprisoned and vanished, murdered most likely. His flaw? Arrogance. His aim? Divine rule. Henry IV ascended to the throne with a sword, not by inheritance. His reign was marked by rebellion and guilt. He was never secure. His health failed, and his crown weighed heavily. His flaw? Insecurity. His aim? Legitimacy. Then came Henry V, the warrior king, Agincourt, a triumph of steel, strategy, and sheer will. He united England behind him, even married the French king's daughter. But death came early, a legend lost at 35. His flaw? Mortality. His aim? A lasting empire. Henry VI, 1422 to 1461, 1470 to 1471. A child king crowned in two kingdoms, England and France. But he was no warrior, gentle, devout, and mentally unstable. His weakness let nobles rise and England tore itself apart in the Wars of the Roses, civil war, blood in the streets. His flaw? Fragility. His aim? Peace in a world made for power. Then came Edward IV, 1461 to 1470, 1471 to 1483. A Yorkist prince, handsome, cunning, and ruthless. He took the throne with force and charm, but scandal followed him. He secretly married Elizabeth Woodville, a commoner. Nobles turned cold. Even his brother George, Duke of Clarence, plotted against him. Edward had him drowned in a barrel of wine, they say. His flaw? Passion. His aim? A dynasty of his own making. Upon Edward's death, his young son, Edward V, reigned for weeks only before vanishing into the Tower of London. Then came Richard III, 1483 to 1485. Brother, usurper. Legend says he murdered the princes to claim the crown. He ruled with steel, but his reign was short. At Bosworth Field, Henry Tudor ended him, and the Plantagenets, with one sword stroke. Henry VII, 1485 to 1509, began the Tudor dynasty. Cautious, cold, calculating. He married Elizabeth of York to unite the warring houses. He rebuilt the economy and crushed dissent. But he trusted no one. His flaw? Paranoia. His aim? Survival. His son, Henry VIII, 1509 to 1547, larger than life. Athletic, intelligent, and dangerous. 6 wives, 2 beheaded. He broke with the Catholic Church to marry Anne Boleyn. England changed forever. He built a navy, crushed his enemies, and left the kingdom divided by faith. His flaw? Obsession? His aim? A male heir and immortal glory? Edward VI, 1547 to 1553, the boy king, son of Henry VIII and Jane Seymour, crowned at 9, dead at 15. He was bright and devout, raised under Protestant reformers. Under his reign, churches were stripped, Latin prayers replaced, and Catholicism driven underground. But Edward was too young to rule. Men like the Duke of Somerset and Northumberland ruled in his name and fought in the shadows. His flaw? Frailty. His aim? A godly England. To prevent a Catholic return, Edward named Lady Jane Grey, his Protestant cousin, as heir. She was queen for just 9 days, used as a pawn, betrayed by her own father, and executed at 16. Her flaw? Obedience. Her aim? None. She never sought the throne. Then came Mary the Martyr, 1553 to 1558, daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon, a Catholic queen in a Protestant land. She married Philip of Spain and brought back the old faith by fire and blood. Nearly 300 Protestants burned at the stake. Bloody Mary, they called her. Her flaw? Fanaticism. Her aim? Salvation of England's soul, no matter the cost. Then the queen who would become a legend, Elizabeth I, 1558 to 1603. Daughter of Anne Boleyn, declared illegitimate, imprisoned by her sister, and yet she rose. The Virgin Queen, clever, charismatic, ruthless when needed. She defeated the Spanish Armada, kept foreign powers at bay, and ruled alone. But she left no heir. Her flaw? Pride in solitude. Her aim? To rule a nation of peace without sharing her crown. James I, 1603 to 1625, the first Stuart King of England. Son of Mary, Queen of Scots, he united the crowns of England and Scotland. Scholarly, eccentric, and obsessed with divine right. He survived the gunpowder plot, a failed Catholic conspiracy that could have blown up Parliament and the king himself. But James had little touch with his people. His court was full of favorites. His flaw? Arrogance. His aim? Absolute authority, justified by God. His son Charles I, 1625-1649, believed in the same divine power, but lacked the charm. He dismissed Parliament, raised illegal taxes, and ruled alone. The country rebelled. Civil war erupted. Cavaliers versus Roundheads, king versus people. Charles was captured, tried, and executed. A king beheaded by his own subjects. His flaw? Stubbornness. His aim? To reign without limits. Then came the Republic. No king, no crown. Oliver Cromwell, the Lord Protector, ruled like a king without the title. He crushed the Irish, dissolved Parliament, and banned even Christmas. His flaw? Hypocrisy. His aim? A godly commonwealth, but it felt more like a military dictatorship. After Cromwell's death, the people wanted the monarchy back. Charles II, 1660 to 1685, son of the executed king, returned from exile. He brought back laughter, fashion, and theater, the merry monarch. But plagues, fires, and political plots still haunted his reign. He played the game, avoiding war with Parliament. His flaw? Indulgence. His aim? Stability through charm. We're entering darker waters next. But before we continue, remember, subscribe, like, share, and comment. Every action helps keep this royal tale alive and thriving. James II, 1685 to 1688, brother to Charles II, stepped onto the throne with confidence and blind ambition, a Catholic king in a fiercely Protestant land. He ignored Parliament, placed Catholics in power, and baptized his son in the old faith. England feared a Catholic dynasty. The Glorious Revolution came not with sword, but with silence. His daughter Mary and her husband William of Orange were invited to rule. James fled. His flaw? Fanaticism. His aim? Restore Catholicism to a Protestant throne. William III and Mary II, 1689 to 1702, ruled together. It was a strange marriage of politics and necessity. William, Dutch and cold. Mary, beloved and cautious. They accepted the Bill of Rights, weakening the monarchy and empowering Parliament. A constitutional shift. The king was no longer above the law. Their flaw? Division. Their aim? Balance between crown and liberty. After Mary's death and William's passing, Queen Anne, 1702 to 1714, became the last Stuart monarch. Her reign saw the unification of England and Scotland into Great Britain. She ruled during war and triumph, including victories under the Duke of Marlborough. But her life was marked by personal tragedy, 17 pregnancies, no surviving heir. Her flaw? Fragile health and emotional dependence. Her aim? A stable and united kingdom. With her death came a new dynasty, the Hannoverians, foreigners by blood, English by crown. George I, 1714 to 1727, spoke little English and ruled through ministers. The age of royal power faded as Parliament grew stronger. His flaw? Detachment. His aim? Keep the throne secure in uncertain lands. George II, 1727 to 1760, followed his father's distant lead, but he had fire. The last British monarch to personally lead troops into battle at Dettingen. His reign saw war, music, and politics thrive. Handel composed under his rule, and the Jacobite rebellion of 1745 nearly toppled him. But George trusted his ministers more than his instincts. Robert Walpole, Britain's first real prime minister, held the reins. George's flaw? Pride wrapped in caution. His aim? Preserve monarchy in a changing world. Then came George III, 1760 to 1820, remembered for two things: the loss of America and his madness. He loved farming, books, and duty. But his firm hand on the colonies backfired. The American Revolution shattered British prestige. Later, his mental health crumbled. Now believed to be porphyria, Parliament placed him under regency. Yet the people still called him Farmer George with affection. His flaw? Rigidity. His aim? Imperial unity at any cost. George IV, 1820 to 1830, ruled next. though he had already governed as Prince Regent, a man of fashion, elegance, and scandal. He rebuilt Windsor and Brighton, but wasted fortunes on food, drink, and women. The people despised his vanity, his flaw, excess, his aim, pleasure dressed as power. William IV, 1830 to 1837, known as the Sailor King, came late to the throne. He had no taste for pomp. He saw the Reform Act of 1832 pass, changing Parliament forever. He reigned in an age of rising democracy. His flaw? Simplicity in a complex age. His aim? To serve quietly and not linger. But next comes the Queen who would redefine monarchy for an entire empire. So don't miss what's coming. And remember, subscribe, like, share, and comment to carry this crown forward. Queen Victoria, 1837 to 1901, the longest reigning monarch of her time. Crowned at 18, she transformed a fading crown into an empire on which the sun never set. She married her cousin, Prince Albert, and together they became a symbol of domestic virtue. Yet her reign was anything but quiet. Revolutions swept Europe. The Industrial Revolution changed lives and landscapes. India became the jewel in her imperial crown. Victoria ruled not with fear, but with image. Black dresses, portraits, processions. After Albert's death, she mourned for 40 years. Behind the veil was a steel will. Her flaw, emotional isolation. Her aim, to be both the mother of the nation and empress of the world. Upon her death, the crown passed to Edward VII, 1901 to 1910, her playboy son. He waited nearly 60 years to rule. Though mocked in his youth, he became a skilled diplomat, helping to shape the Entente Cordiale with France. A new age dawned, more modern, more uncertain. His flaw, a life of indulgence. His aim, to polish Britain's fading prestige. Then came George V, 1910 to 1936, a modest man who guided Britain through the Great War. Cousin to the Kaiser, he cut ties with Germany, changing the family name from Saxe-Coburg to Windsor. He visited the trenches. He stood firm during labor strikes. His flaw? Limited vision. His aim? To preserve the monarchy in an era when monarchies were falling. Edward VIII, 1936. The king who reigned for less than a year. Charming, fashionable, and scandalous. He had one goal, to marry the American divorcee Wallis Simpson. But the crown had rules, and love wasn't one of them. Parliament refused. The church refused. The empire refused. Edward chose love over duty. I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility without the help and support of the woman I love. With those words, he abdicated. His flaw, self-indulgence. His aim, freedom at the cost of a crown. The throne passed to his brother, George VI, 1936 to 1952. Shy, stammering, and unprepared. Yet in crisis, he rose. During World War II, he stayed in London through the Blitz, visiting bombed neighborhoods and wounded soldiers. He gave hope through quiet strength. With Churchill at his side, he stood against tyranny. His flaw, insecurity. His aim, stability in the storm. And from that war was born a queen who would become a legend. Elizabeth II, 1952 to 2022. The steadfast symbol of modern monarchy. She witnessed the fall of empires, the rise of new nations, space travel, and social revolution. She met every U.S. president except one. Through scandals, divorces, and the death of Princess Diana, she remained a pillar, a queen of restraint, dignity, and duty. Her flaw, emotional distance. Her aim, continuity above all. She was queen for 70 years, and now a new chapter unfolds. Charles III, 2022 to present. After decades of waiting, the Prince of Wales finally became king. His path was long and shadowed. by scandal, loss, and legacy. His marriage to Princess Diana captured hearts in headlines, but ended in heartbreak and tragedy. His long-standing relationship with Camilla, now Queen Consort, drew criticism for years, but time softened scandal. Charles spent much of his life championing causes once dismissed: climate change, sustainability, and interfaith dialogue. Once seen as eccentric, now seen as prophetic, but he ascends the throne in a divided world, with the monarchy under question. His flaw? Public mistrust. His aim? To modernize tradition, if the people let him. And behind him stands a new generation: Prince William, heir apparent, and Princess Catherine, beloved by the public. Their image is polished, their purpose clear. But can image survive truth in the age of the internet? The British monarchy has survived wars, scandals, abdications, and rebellions. It has been reshaped, rebranded, reborn. From the Norman conquest to the Windsor dynasty, it has remained the crown jewel of British identity and a mirror of its people's values and flaws. Kings and queens, saints and tyrants, visionaries and fools, they wore the same crown, but history judged them not by their title, but by their choices. So now, as the crown rests once again upon a head, we ask, what does it mean to rule in our time? And who will be remembered? History isn't finished. It never is. Subscribe, like, share, and comment to keep this story alive. And make sure the past continues to speak to the present. The true history of kings and queens of England is a story of power and passion, as human as it is royal.